Well, we're in the backstage of London Convention Centre.
Apex Center.
Yeah, sorry, Apex Center.
That's okay.
Yeah, Apex Center.
Apex, you know.
Apex.
It's like, yeah.
There's a big party or a big push for actually Rabia, a city of the future that is going to give a new chance to augmented citizen and everything. We're in the last part of the game, and we know coming here that there are some terrorist threats that are really serious and that might make this evening go south or not. So you have to play your cards really smart here, and which brings me to the choices that you're going to make. You've been making a lot of choices through the game, but now I'm not spoiling anything if you're still playing the game, but you'll still have to make some choices. But the point here is that building a map like this one that looks like, in appearance, like any other maps that we would build, from a narrative standpoint at least, this one was a nightmare to not only produce, it was a nightmare to conceive. Yes. And have all the logic and all the ramifications of if you do A, B, C, D, or E, and have all of this work together.
Yeah, well, it's always a challenge getting to the end of the story, and especially getting to the end of a game story. Yep. Because you have all these different threads that are leading here. You want to create an ending that is exciting and compelling and surprising, and everything makes sense as it gets here, but you're not really sure what's going to happen. That's always just the normal challenges of building the end of a story. But when we're looking at it, it's like, okay, back early in the game, the player could have made this decision, and we can't forget that they might arrive here not knowing this first very important piece of information. So how do we approach the creation of, say, this one dialogue that's happening in here, and saying, how do we present to the player that idea that they're going to need to understand it? And then when you throw on top of that we don't know if you're going to go through this and play it stealthy and quiet, fight your way through, and what happens if in an area that we want you to be quiet and stealthy, you decide you're going to set off all the alarms that you can. How does the story and the gameplay adapt to do this, as we still keep funneling you towards that very important moment of choice that's coming up soon?
Yeah, and it took us like several months to just like sort all those possibilities out, making sure that like the narrative threads were consistent and they were following through the logic of the story, but like Mary said, the logic of what the player did or didn't do. Because one thing that, especially in Deus Ex game, we cannot do is assume that players know. We cannot assume, because there are a lot of things that are optional, and some of the other things are on the critical path. So we have a minimum of information that we know all players will have, but there are several other things around that. Maybe yes, maybe no. So how you build dialogues, how you build all those moments with characters and expose choices to the players in a way that kind of makes sense for what they did. So
and even the level design consideration. Level design, I think you have to often redesign 3 or 4 times all the considerations of the branching paths, and we don't like to have story doors. We don't like to block you, and we have to figure out how can we channel you to the information you need without blocking you. But if we don't, then we have to figure about, well, wait a minute, what if you've already done this? What if you, sneaky player, were so smart that you figured out how to get here before we wanted you to get here? And then can we adapt the story to that with the level design? And in the end, I think for this map in particular, every time we had to dive into it, I got a headache.